Hey, so let's talk about Sanji, because out of every character in One Piece, he might be the most misunderstood. And it's not because he's complicated or because Oda hides things, it's because people keep choosing to look at the wrong parts of his character. They focus on the surface level stuff, like the jokes and the... that. And the moments that are just easy to clip and laugh at. And because of that, they completely miss what Sanji actually is. And what he actually is extremely dangerous. Not in the loud way like Luffy, or in the obvious way of Zoro. Sanji is different in a way that's much quieter, but honestly way harder to deal with. Let's start from the Baratie. When Sanji is first introduced, the first thing we really see from him isn't just personality, but control. Sanji handles situations very fast, with no hesitation or overthinking, and whether it's pirates causing problems, marines stepping out of line, or just someone disrespecting the restaurant, Sanji does not deal with it. And he does it so casually. And that's very important because it tells you this isn't new for him. Then we get to Jin, and this is where people already start misunderstanding Sanji, because they see the result and ignore the context. Sanji loses, so people assume he wasn't strong enough, but that's not really what happened. Sanji wasn't outclassed or overwhelmed, he was just worn down. He was taking damage from multiple angles, and he was put in a situation where he couldn't fight cleanly. And even then, he kept going, and that's the difference. Sanji doesn't crumble when things go wrong, he just adjusts himself, or he endures. Then Arlong Park, and again, people don't fully process what Sanji shows here, because it's not just strength, it's awareness. Even underwater, which is a huge disadvantage, Sanji is still thinking and still calculating and still finding a way to win. Most characters in that situation would panic, but Sanji doesn't. But where Sanji really separates himself isn't in fights, it's in moments people don't see. Little Garden is where we get one of the most important Sanji moments in the entire series. And it barely gets talked about because instead of fighting, Sanji plays the game differently. He creates a fake identity, controls the conversation, and pulls information out of Crocodile, who is one of the smartest villains in the series. And Crocodile doesn't even realize it. Sanji really outplayed Crocodile without throwing a single punch. And then he does it again at Alabasta. He takes on the Mr. Prince persona, breaking the crew out and moving behind the scenes, fixing a situation that should have ended everything, and again, nobody really sees it. And that's the pattern. Luffy breaks through obstacles, Zoro confronts them head on, and Sanji, he handles the problems no one else even realizes exist yet. And that's why his role is so dangerous, because you don't ever see him coming. Then we hit Enies Lobby, and this is where Sanji's character really becomes clear, because now it's not just actions, it's philosophy. When a woman lies, a real man forgives her. Now, on the surface, people clown this line, and to be honest, I was one of those kinds of people, because I just cannot take this line seriously, and you can't blame me. But in context, Sanji was one of the only people who really genuinely understood Robin immediately. He didn't need confirmation or proof, he just knew something was wrong, and that's not weakness, that's perception. Then the train comes, and Sanji moves alone with no backup or spotlight, just doing what he needs to be done, and this is where you really start to understand him. Sanji doesn't wait for permission. If something needs to be handled, he handles it. And the fight with Sanji versus Jabara is where we finally see what happens when Sanji stops holding back. Because to be real, up until now, there's always been something limiting him. Either an injury or some kind of distraction or circumstance, but here he locks in. And once he does, the fight is nowhere near close. Diablo Jambe wasn't just a power-up, it was a statement. But even that isn't the most important part, because right after that, Sanji opens the gates of justice. And really think about that. That's not just strength, that's strategy affecting the entire battlefield. That's a move that impacts literally everyone. Sanji doesn't just win his fight, he made escape possible. And the world doesn't even fully understand it, and that's the disconnect. The One Piece world doesn't really know Sanji. And they really can't, because everything that makes him dangerous happens behind the scenes. To the public, he's just another straw hat, a cook, a fighter. But then suddenly, he's a Vinsmoke, and now people think they understand him. Sanji's royalty, Sanji's enhance, and that explains it, but really, that's wrong too. Because Sanji isn't Germa. He's not a weapon, and he's not emotionless. He may have been built for those purposes, but that's not what he is. And that's what makes him even more dangerous. is. And Whole Cake Island proves that, because when Sanji is pushed, he doesn't break, he sacrifices. He carries everything himself, takes the burden, and makes the hard decisions even if it destroys him in the process. And that's the part people overlook, because Sanji isn't just strong physically, he's mentally resilient. Fast forward to Wano and his fight with Queen, and this is where everything comes together. Because, unlike before, Sanji understands himself. No confusion or hesitation, and once that happens, the fight is over. And now we're at a point in the story where something becomes very clear. Sanji isn't just one thing. He's not just strength or speed or IQ, he's all of it, combined with unpredictability. You never know what Sanji is about to do. You don't know where he is or what he's planning, and by the time you do realize, it's already done, and that's what makes him a monster. It's not just what he can do, but how he operates, because if you're fighting Luffy or Zoro, you know what's coming. But with Sanji, you don't. And that is the absolute worst type of opponent to have. So when people reduce Sanji to jokes or ignore what he actually contributes to the crew, they're missing the entire point. Because Sanji isn't underrated because he's weak, he's underrated because people aren't paying enough attention. Because if you actually look at him, everything he's done and everything he continues to do, there's only one conclusion. Sanji isn't just part of the crew, he's the reason things don't fall apart. The one fixing problems before they explode. The one thinking ahead while everyone else is reacting. And if the world of One Piece ever truly understood that, Sanji wouldn't just be respected, he'd be feared. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in whatever I make next. Peace.